Again, this is Barbara Britt from Culture Strategist coming to you by way of Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I am so happy to be on here with you this morning, and we're going to continue on some effects that rudeness has in the business culture and some of the ways that we can probably start checking ourselves and the effects it has on small businesses versus the effects it has on large businesses. So we're going to get started on that today. I am in gratitude this morning for having opportunities to learn how to work new systems, how to do things that I want to do with my business to make it more profitable, to make it somewhere where I can actually grow and develop, reach more people, and be able to do more transformational leadership, which is if you know me at all, that's something that I strive to always be able to do. And so, again, Barbara Britt, culture strategist, and this is what I know from going into businesses and corporations and companies and just working out in the community, all the way from teaching for 37 years and coaching and seeing the cultures there. And so yesterday I had an experience with culture again. Anytime that I do something or come in effect with something that I see that can radically change the culture of my community, the business, your family life, your church, because again, culture is everything. It's what people immediately feel when they come into a room. It's what they can almost smell, that what they they can feel the vibration of a culture in an organization. Yes, they actually feel the vibration of a culture. And you will experience or say, I walked in and I immediately felt safe. I immediately felt like I could speak freely. Um, I walked in and I thought something was off. I don't know what was off, but I came in to really share something with them, and I pulled back. I, I listened a little bit more, and I really didn't share that day. And I'm not for sure if I'm going to go back. Been going there for years, but something's off now. This is what people experience when they come to apply for a job. When after they apply, they get the job, they come in on that first day of onboarding, everything is pretty good, and then all of a sudden they get moved to a new department, or a new department head takes over, or another hire comes in, and the culture shifts. Yes, I'm telling you, the culture shifts. And this is something we have to be aware of. So, again, I'm in gratitude, and I hope if you're joining me this morning or come on later, that you will tell me what you're in gratitude for. I will tell you what half of half of the things that we experience, or half of the trials and tribulation, half the things that we do, if we would just start our morning off in gratitude, in the middle of the day in gratitude, and in our evening, if we end with gratitude of what we're going to be able to accomplish, what we accomplished that day, and what we're going to be able to accomplish the next day, will make a difference for us. Well, we're going to talk today about a little rudeness goes a long way. I love that. A little rudeness goes a long way. And what's one of the best ways that we can influence people? What's one of the best ways that we can get people to change their habits and go into a more prosperous attitude to live? You know what it is? It's free. It's a smile. It's a smile. And I've been doing it. And now, since starting to study with Dr. Cialdini, I am going to be doing it a whole lot more than I did before. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, is a little bit of rudeness goes a long way. Now, right after this program, I'm going to get on with Emotional Intelligence Group that I'm taking a journey with. It's not a mastermind, it is an emotional intelligence journey. Being aware of when we're in an emotional healthy situation, we're handling emotionally, you know, safe and in strength, and that we're actually helping others and ourselves, or when we have maybe gone into rudeness. Yes, because the one thing that when I was hit with it so much last week or the week before now, what I was hit with so strongly was that the rudeness, out and out rudeness, and not only that, but the acceptability of people. Well, let's don't make them mad. Let's don't do this. Let's don't, and so what they do is they get ruder and ruder, right? And that what happens? They get ruder, and that's how we are as human beings. That's the things that affect us. You see me looking around when I've got new lighting, got a new camera. I told you Johnny C came and set up my studio. I'm still learning how to handle it and all the wires, and I'm going to have to get those under control a little bit. But so let's get started today on how rudeness affects our culture. Now, the first thing I read in an article, and if I have enough time, I'll get that article out. I underlined some things that I thought were really good, but one of the first things was that how long rudeness affects you. I'm, yeah, and I just want to say, grow up, Barbara, and mature up and all. But what happened was when that happened with me, I started digging deep into rudeness. And I hadn't done that before. And I'm glad I did because that really is a cornerstone to the culture of places. It's the cornerstone of it. So, with that in mind, I want us to think about some things that we can do or be in awareness if we're being rude or if we're allowing rudeness to live and to breathe and to get that, that market in our home, churches, our businesses. So, how to stop incivility, not being civilized, not acting civilized to other people from spreading in your organization. And next time I'm going to bring up a book that a lot of us had to read when we were younger. And for the younger generation, I don't believe that they've had to read it. But it really showed where when these boys were put on an island and they were left to their own devices and how they formed this almost a dictatorship when it was ended and how uncivilized they were to each other and how little by little every day more and more and more. But you know what? It sparked from rudeness. Yeah, it sparked from that set of rudeness. So it says never respond to rudeness. When people are rude to you, they reveal who they are, not who you are. You know, don't take it personally. Be silent. Well, that quote, I liked it, but I will tell you this. We cannot be silent. I don't think that you display rudeness back for rudeness. I don't think you do that exchange. I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that you have to put an end to it. I did it with trying to, speak back into them, keeping a smile, telling them other options that they had. However, I I did stop it. Their rudeness was not going to allow them to do something I knew that they shouldn't be doing and that I couldn't allow to be done. Why? Because that was my given chore. Don't allow this to happen. It's not good for the company. It's not good for the organization. Yada yada yada. So I stayed with that. So I wasn't silent, but I didn't turn around and be rude back to them. You know, told them I'm sorry for their inconvenience, their unhappiness, but that this was the way it was. And I smiled and I said, you know what? I hope in 5 minutes you have a better day. I hope you do. So I don't say just let it happen. And especially if you're in an organization and something I read and if I had thought about it, I would have said, sure, that's true. But it talked about in how rudeness in a small business can absolutely destroy the culture just like that. And when they went back and they actually looked at rudeness and they looked at it was usually caused by one or two people. Now, when you have a large organization and you're in divisions, let's say you're broken up into divisions, it's easier for the leader to absolutely squelch that in that division and not let it come over. Unless Yeah, there's always an unless. This is when I've seen it actually come over. Let's say I hear something and I start with gossip. And so I gossip with another division. And then when I come into mine, I'm going to go, and they feel that way too. And, and I spread that. Then it's, it's just as harmful in that division as it would be as if you're in a small company. Rudeness is something that absolutely permeates everything, and has long lasting effects. Okay, you know, a lot of us came out of the pandemic and we thought to ourselves, well, you know, it's going to get back to normal. I remember thinking, remember when we thought we were only going to close down for 2 weeks, and then it was just a month, and then it went on. State of Florida didn't close down very long, but other states did. I have friends all over the United States and actually in other countries, and they were like, "You're doing that, you're doing that," and I go, "Yes, in the state of Florida, we're doing this. This is what our state allows." And I actually went out and worked, but people kept on saying, when we go back to normal, when we go back to normal, well, normal isn't the same as it was then. And isn't normal is something that hopefully we're not having just normal. We're changing, we're growing. The business is growing. We see something that's not working or that's harmful to people, we change it. We don't want to stay that status quo. When I came in and I was a new teacher, this was what I was told over and over and over again. That's just the way I was treated. That's just the way it is. And new teachers are just why. And I can remember knowing that my exuberance and my love for life and my belief in teaching and that I could change the world was really, really. It, I had forces trying to squelch it at every turn. I did. I had people just at every turn. Well, you'll just see. You'll just see. Not things like, well, when this happens, I found that this technique is good. I found out that you can try this. So no, I didn't get that. I got squelching. And so so it's still going on today. It's still going on today, and something that we don't want to happen, because when I disregard someone, when I refuse to see them or refuse to see their strengths and their talents, their giftedness, I'm being rude to them. I'm closing them out. Has far-reaching effects. Nowadays, people just leave. Or the name gets out there in the community and people go, don't go to work for them. You're not going to believe this person they have. This person. Can one person make a difference that's allowed to be rude and disrespectful and hurtful to others? I can tell you, it can. It does. I see it every single day. I witness it. Um, do I wish I didn't? Yes. That's the reason I'm a culture strategist, because I know now that that I have to respectfully point that out. And I have to be able to give them techniques and skills and tools to stop the rudeness, to do a self-check. Are you the one being rude? And I've had to self-check, and I found out I was being rude. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. So, and then what we do when we're act uncivilized to other people, we find that we start getting targets. You might know this word from a bully, because that's what rudeness can turn into, is a bully. You take that and you disregard someone. When they go to speak, you shut them off. I've had 3 instances now of people that I'm working with, and in all different capacities, because I'm so lucky. I'm so honored to get to work with a lot of people in and out of my community. And on 3 different occasions, they've been told to hush up and sit down, even if their time is not up. Now, if you're given 30 seconds, that's your 30 seconds. If you're not being outright harmful or rude or disrespectful to everybody, you're given 30 seconds. You're given a minute. You're given 3 minutes. And It's gotten where it's acceptable that in a group of people to tell them to sit down and be quiet because you have a, a higher leadership position than they do. You have that position, but I'm going to ask you this. Did you show leadership? And I will tell you right now, no, you didn't. Have I done it? Yes, I have. Did I have a right to do it? No, I didn't. Do I check myself at every instance now? I check myself. And like, will I slip? Yes. That's why we're doing this whole program, okay? You know, le- being rude is so detrimental to organizations, and we already talked that that smaller organizations it can kill them. It can kill them faster. Larger organizations, people can close off and work in their department and keep their department whole and well. However, okay, however, we have to work together. Even in large organizations, you have components that you must work together or things don't do well. So, you know, rudeness is harmful to employee retention. Is that a surprise to any of you that I'm telling you that? Rudeness is harmful to employee retention. And if it's harmful to the employee retention, how harmful is it to the bottom line? How hard is it? How hard is it with the bottom line? It's hard enough to take you out of business. Now, I mean, you want to talk about what can destroy a business? You, as the owner, the CEO, is rudeness. Not acknowledging someone's existence, walking down the hall and not even saying hello to them, or when you do say hello to them, go into their conversation and exclude them. I've actually seen people corner people out. And when I network, I teach that. If someone drops their shoulder and doesn't allow you in, that's not your group. Go on. But think of the opportunity. Think about what they feel about that organization. Are they going to be likely to stay? No, they won't. Not only they're not going to stay, they're going to go out and they're going to talk about it. You know, according to one estimate, handling a single incident of rudeness can cost an organization more than 25,000. You heard me, $25,000. One act of rudeness. Because I want to tell you something. When people are, and I'm being extremely careful not to go out because the organization that I belong to wasn't rude in itself. Some of the people that belong to it were rude. The organization wasn't rude. I'm not going to go out and tell anybody not to go to the organization or not to do anything like that. But I am going to talk to the organization about allowing those type of situations to happen. Again, if you listen to me Tuesday, there's a reason that at airports it says you may not be rude, discourteous, act violent, threatening to anybody in the airport. You can't do it. You can't get on a plane and slap the stewardess. Or the steward. You can't do that. You can't talk down to them. You can't holler at them. But why? It's not civilized behavior. And I'm sorry, but we need that. So $25,000, hang that in your hat, okay? It says the mass majority of employees experience rudeness at work, and it said 98%. So I started researching to make sure that, and so it went down to about 70%, which is still extremely high, extremely high. Here's what it says. Employees were insulted, interrupted. See, we don't think interrupting somebody is rudeness. It is. And I have a very hard time. I will talk over people. And that's so rude on my part. I'm really working on that. And if you come encounter with me and I do that, remind me gently that I just talked over somebody. And just smile. I'll get the hint. Being ignored. Have you ever been brought to a meeting or brought in somewhere? And I was brought in, and I was actually the expert on that. Not an expert on a lot of things, but I was an expert on that. And I was ignored the whole entire time. And anytime I made a suggestion, it was ignored. And, you know, yeah, very detrimental. Also, the people that they put in place saw that it was all right to do that and act that way. And so when they got into my position, then they ignored the people that had ignored me and killed a lot of programs and a lot of things. Why? Because they had seen it done. Remember, we learn by example. And when we see rudeness and nothing's done about it, we start thinking that that's all right, it's acceptable. Well, I was mad. Well, I was this, I was that. Doesn't matter. There's no excuse for it. You know, as a result, researchers have described the workplace rudeness as an epidemic, that it's in epidemic proportions. Employees, employers, employers, businesses, corporations. The word is out there about your organization. And you want the word to be out there. Make sure that the word that's out there in the community is one that you respect your employees, you respect your clients, you respect everybody in the company, and you all build and grow together. You want people to apply for those jobs. You want people to stay. There's just some simple tips, and I want to tell you what, none of them cost you any money. However, if you allow rudeness to prevail, that will cost you. We just heard can up to $25,000. Remember that onboarding, that inboarding process, onboarding, bringing someone in, moving them across country, only to get there and to be treated so rudely, spoken to so rudely, that they don't even stay for their 2 weeks. That costs you a lot of money. It costs you a lot of money. It costs you having to say, that's all right, we've got someone coming in. Oh, they're going to be awesome. They're going to do this. And then, oh, well, they're no longer with us. Kiss of death, right? It is the kiss of death. So, I hope that on this section of rudeness is because I have a love for all things culture. I teach culture strategies, and this is my strength area. This is what I know. I've shared it with you, and I hope that you will just be in a little bit more of awareness, and maybe that's something that you can all work on. The benefits are far reaching when people leave the office and go home, go to their community. If they're not allowed to act rude there, or they're not encouraged to act rudely there, then the rudeness isn't going to follow. And then we just have a better community, a community with a better culture. When we say we're, this or we're this or we're this, people say they walk their culture, and they'll know it. And let me tell you what, you won't be on the brink of going out of business because people are going to support you. This is Barbara Britt signing off. Thank you for joining me today. It has been my privilege to be with you. Thank you.